How are you?
I'm good. I've had a strange week.
Strange how?
I don't think strange in any ways that are at all interesting to listeners.
Oh, okay, good. So we're just going to leave that hanging like a fart in a lift?
Oh, God, I used to do that as a teenager at school. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
I've had some quite middle-aged moments. Not that this is what the podcast is about, of course. Just in case my sister is listening, who said to me the other day, "You know, you both sometimes just don't talk about anything."
Well, I mean, that's true. But why is this coming as a shock to her?
I don't know.
Susan, have you been listening?
I think she has, and if she's been listening long enough, she would have figured that one out. But it wasn't. I don't think she was accusing us of anything.
It was more a reflection.
Yeah, and nor was it feedback.
Oh, thank goodness.
But yes, I had a funny moment in a shop, when a young woman was serving me, and she was great. Like, she was really attentive and all the things that you would expect a shopkeeper, or maybe not expect, but hope. And I did something. I think I can't quite remember what gesture it was that I did, which I think it was more or less that I was going to get something from the table, and she turned it into a fist bump.
Oh! Yikes.
Yeah, and I did feel, just in that moment, I went, whoa, was that a mixture of mixing of generational signals, if ever there was. Yeah, and also
were you able? I have to, before we move on. Were you able to transform your hand gesture into a fist bump in time?
Totally. I'm not even sure she noticed. But it did occur to me that it's quite possibly the first time I've ever fist bumped. Well, I didn't really fist bump them; they fist bumped me, and I kind of adapted. But I think that might have been the first time I've done that particular form of human communication. Maybe with Finn.
Did you pull back and do the hand explosion thing?
I am so not cool enough for that.
I don't think it's cool.
I know it's not.
If somebody's committed to a fist bump, it feels to me wrong to not pull your hand back and then go.
Exactly. And the other thing, I've just been biking in the cold, but it's amazing how you
warm up when you come inside.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel. Hang on, I'm taking my headphones off. So I can't hear you right now.
Simon can't hear me.
I'm taking off my
clothes.
No, the neck. What do you call those neck things?
A gaiter.
There's another word.
Snood.
Snood. Thank you. Wow, you know everything.
I got a great message yesterday that said, I need to buy a new iron. And since you are the person who knows about gadgets and about clothes, I think you might be the person to ask.
Was it from someone you know?
Yeah, it wasn't from a stranger. That would be really odd. Dear Professor Miller, I have been observing your LinkedIn profile.
I love how you just drop in the professor thing any possible moment you can in this podcast.
I think I have literally said it twice.
Exactly. I rest my case.
I mean, I'm going to say... I don't want to point fingers, but it might be that there are some grapes here, and they may not be as sweet as they need to be. That's all I'm saying, Simon. That's all I am saying.
You're saying that it's about me.
I think it might say more about you than it does about me. I'm simply using the title that I have been bestowed appropriately and in a timely fashion. I'm so sorry.
I can't believe you used the word bestowed and appropriately in the same sentence whilst talking about your professorship.
I mean, I can. Okay, so fist
And the other
bump.
thing was just becoming increasingly aware of this sound.
So I'm super aware of it because I have to edit it out an awful lot.
I mean, I know it's been a while, but just increasingly.
Just that older sort of lungy, throaty, yeah.
What is it? Do you think I need to reduce the amount of dairy? Like, what is it about middle-aged men that start making that sound?
I think it is probably a dairy thing. I think there is, if we were coming at it from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, it's an overabundance of phlegm in the body.
Right. But why do you why do you not make it when you're younger? It's not like I've increased the amount of dairy in my diet.
But your body burns through stuff differently, doesn't it, when you're younger than when you're older? So things are just going to sit around more. It's like digestion.
Yeah.
You know. I don't remember being as burpy as I am now, sort of 20 years ago. Does that make sense?
I just thought maybe you had just more things on your mind 20 years ago, so you didn't notice it as much. But now you've got nothing on your mind, and you just...
I think I probably just... Things digest more slowly. I think we're just slowing down. Anybody would think we're middle-aged.
So sorry about the having to edit it. I mean, I think I'm glad you edit them out. And the funny thing about it is I try and restrain them as well. If I had a mute button, I'd...
Yeah, don't worry about it. What I mean is that there are an awful lot of mouth and throat and sort of sounds that we all both make.
Sure. And the other thing is my next door neighbour. I'm just running through a few things here, Lee, before we get to the heart of the matter, because we do have a topic, especially for you, Susan. I don't know if we do, but anyway, let's...
well, I actually do have something I want to talk about.
Holy shit. So do I. Actually, I've got a few things.
Holy moly. So your neighbour...
And my neighbour is, I'm going to use the word elderly.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm always a bit unsure about that now.
I've told you many times that my dad refers to people as little old men.
Yes, exactly.
And I have to tell him they're in their 60s, Norman. they're young enough to be your son. So they're not little old men.
Exactly. And I reckon this guy is Norman's age plus a few.
So in his 80s.
Yeah. But also not as strong and as vibrant as Norman.
Norman was up a ladder this morning when I phoned him.
I rest my case. Again.
Yeah.
I'm resting my case a lot already. Exactly. I can't imagine my neighbour being up a ladder. But he's also taken to, every time I pass him by in the stairwell, I do that thing we do, which is to say, "How are you?" Insert name of neighbour here. And he says, "Above ground, can't complain." And then he proceeds to tell me why he has to say that he's above ground, because when he gets to his age, that's a pretty good outcome. But the thing is, he says it every time.
Does he tell you why he's saying it every time?
Uh-huh.
Oh, sweetheart.
It's really beautiful, isn't it? It's really beautiful, and I listen every time, and I go, "Yeah, I think that you're right." And it's really, I really love it. I love that he says it. I don't mind. I'm not at all saying that he shouldn't or anything like that. But there's something about the repetition of that very statement, which is kind of heartbreaking and kind of beautiful and cute and all those things that we humans are.
Yeah. Oh, does he have anybody living with him?
No. In fact, the worst thing is his.
We'll just leave it with no.
Yeah.
And are you going to spend Christmas with him?
You know I'm the Christmas Grinch, right?
Uh-huh. All the more reason that you might want to open a little window of your heart and let some love in.
Yeah, no, I think Lil and I will be celebrating Christmas by ourselves.
Okay, fine. Then you don't have to spend it with your next door
Well, also,
neighbour.
I think he's also, my neighbour's got family.
Right, good.
But doesn't live with him.
No. Gotcha. Okay. So, neighbour, fist bump, clearing your throat. Is there anything else you need to get off the deck before we crack on with the, as you say, heart of the matter for you, Susan?
I think the next thing I was thinking about is probably going to be too long for getting off my chest. So you go.
Are you sure you don't want to get it off your chest? It's fine. We can just we can just spend the whole day talking about nothing.
Well, it's not a nothing though. That's what I mean.
Get it off. Go, just do it. Come on, because my topic can wait, or it can go in like a little. I can turn it into a pithy one-liner.
Well, I don't want you to do that though. I feel like I.
Well, I'm not sure if it's actually. Okay, I'm going to keep yours in the tubes, as it were, and I'm going to give you my. I was in the Netherlands this week. I've been all over the place. Since last I spoke to you, I've been to Lisbon, London, Amsterdam, and Groningen. Groningen was the place in the Netherlands that I spent the longest.
And that's how you did you figure out that's how you pronounce it?
That's how you pronounce it, because I made people say it several times to me. Groningen, not Grongigen, which is what I'd been saying before. Groningen.
Basically,
like Heineken.
It rhymes with Finnegan, doesn't it?
I guess it does, sort of. Anyway, I arrived the day of the polling for their new government, and I know you don't keep on top of the news, so I will tell you. It looks, although it's not fully agreed yet, but it looks very like a far right government will be installed, or at least the person who came away with the most votes, not enough votes to be decisive, but I think he had 37 seats.
Do they form a proportion? Do they have a proportional system in the Netherlands?
I didn't look into it.
This is for their national government,
details.
right? Their federal, or whatever
this
you
is
call
for
it.
their national, for the national government, and so it's gone far right, and this is one of the richest nations in Europe. Remember. And the story that, of course, is being told, as always, as is always the case, is that your lives will be better when you get rid of the brown people. We are being drained. This is an incredibly rich nation where people are not struggling, and I'm sure there will be people in the Netherlands who will say, "Excuse me, I am," because there is always poverty. But as a per capita representation in Europe, they're doing very well. And here we are, once again, the narrative sliding to the far right. And I was talking to a friend about the sense that we're just all across the world gently sleepwalking back to the 1930s. And so it's not really a topic of conversation so much, okay, it looks like everything's going back 100 years. How do you feel about that, Simon? And I think maybe the reason it was cast into such strong relief for me is I was in this country that is doing really well at the same time that I happen to be reading Christopher Isherwood's his Berlin Diaries from the 1930s that the musical Cabaret is based upon.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah,
that's the Christopher you're referring to.
Yes, yeah, and it was, and this is like kind of a very.
I think you sang a bit of Cabaret last time we talked about that particular musical.
I've managed to resist the urge.
I mean, it must be strong though, mustn't it?
I mean, yeah.
Can you feel it? Like, where do you feel it right now?
I was saying to Bob when I got home that I don't sing while I'm away. Because I'm in hotels, I'm on trains, I'm on aeroplanes, so I've done all of the travel-y thing, and
which is great that you've learned, that you've taught yourself that there are some situations in which it's not appropriate to sing musicals.
Or anything.
Big
Today,
up. Good on you.
It wasn't just musicals. Today it was. I needed. I don't know why, but I needed the raspy caterwaulings of Alanis Morissette to just soothe my soul.
When does one not need the raspberry? What do you call them?
Raspy caterwaulings. Quite often I don't need it. But this morning I was standing in the kitchen singing "Uninvited" very loudly, loudly.
Could you sing us a line?
No.
Oh, Lee Miller.
No, because I have to. It's one of those. I need to do it in a very, very full-throated way.
Oh, right. So
it's like properly. I just have to turn the volume up, and I have to like really belt it out.
So that'd get a bit hot on the mic, wouldn't it?
Oh, even if I stood back, it would be like, Jesus. And I said to Bob,
yeah. Oh God,
it's
sorry.
like I've been holding in a musical fart for the whole week, and I just had to let it out, and it had to be loud and long.
It had to be Alanis.
Yeah, I stank the kitchen out. So
You stank
anyway.
it out with Alanis.
I did.
I'm just a little bit concerned that we're dropping into an episode about nothing. I've got my
Okay,
sister
sorry.
hovering over it now.
I have just said
I know,
that
you've
I
just dropped
think that the entire world is swinging to the far right, and should we be worried? It feels like I'm living through the pages of Christopher Isherwood.
Yeah,
That doesn't
okay.
feel like nothing.
Okay. So
But I also don't think it's a conversation because I know that you're not up to date with the news, so you're probably just thinking.
no. But I think there are two things that come. First of all, can you talk about? I don't mean this is a trick question at all either. What is it about that thing that feels incredibly important to you? Like, how would you describe? I know maybe you think it's that self-evident or that it's just obvious, but can you talk about why that particular issue is so important to you?
I think it's because of the way that the people I was talking to in the Netherlands were deeply upset and deeply frustrated, but at the same time there was a sort of shrug of the shoulders about it. And it feels a bit like, so I know you don't watch horror films, but I'm going to invoke Scream.
Right, which I think I might have seen.
Okay, so you're familiar with the
Or I
with
saw
shape.
I saw the jokey version.
Scary movie.
Scary, or I saw both, because I knew when I saw Scary Movie, I knew the references.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
Scream was like 20 odd years ago, I guess. In the 1990s, it was made. And then there was a couple of years ago, I think it was post-COVID, there was a one of those things that isn't a reboot and it isn't a sequel. They call it a requel.
oh, I've never heard that term.
So you know we watched Suspiria, which was the remake of the 1978 version,
Yeah.
and we enjoyed it and we talked about it. Well,
We didn't
Halloween,
watch it together, yeah.
No, but we both watched it and then we had a conversation about it. But Halloween and Scream, these popular horror franchises, have revivified themselves. In fact, Texas Chainsaw Massacre did it recently as well. They've revivified themselves by having what they call a legacy character, or a group of legacy characters, interacting with a series of new characters. And
Actually, the characters or the original actors? Or
in most instances, it's the original actors. In Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it couldn't be the original actor because she died. The person who played the character Sally Hardesty in the 1970s.
Movie.
Yeah, so they replayed it with a new performer. But I think probably enough time had gone on, and she was only in one of the films such a long time ago. Anyway, there's these requels with legacy characters and new characters, and Scream is one that has, been quite successful, and really successful. And they were about to make a Scream 7. And this week,
I was. If I'd had to guess, I would have said 12. But there you go. So
I think Nightmare on Elm Street is around about 7 or 8.
But it's not Fast and Furious. They're not right up.
No. Friday the 13th is at 12. I think Halloween, if you add all of them together, is probably closer to 13 or 14 at this point. However, this is 7 for Scream, and one of the new. This is going somewhere.
I know, but it's, like, to me, that's more of a problem than the rise of the right wing. The number of crap movies that are made. Sorry, go. I'm joking.
Yeah, I'll cut that out so you don't sound quite so cloth-eared.
Won't, because you've made a comment about it.
One of the new performers is a woman called Melissa Barrera, a Latina actor. I think she was in a Lin-Manuel Miranda film, not Hamilton, the other one that I don't remember the name of.
That one was the... what was it called? Something that was set in Brooklyn, a musical...
Yeah, that one.
Summer...
That one.
No... Brooklyn Heights, something Heights.
Oh, In the Heights. Well done, In the Heights.
Thank you very much.
So, Melissa Barrera, she was in that, and she was one of the main, if not the main character of the new Scream franchises, and Latina actor, or Latinx actor if we want to be non-gendered, and she has been quite vocal on social media about the occupation of Gaza by Israel. Mm-hmm. And she has been on the side of the Gazans. Mm-hmm. Not, to be very clear, on the side of Hamas, on the side of the Gazans. And she has been critical of the idea of an occupying force. And she said stuff in tweets that were about... I mean, if you read it, it's pretty low-key... Pretty low-key stuff. It's not inflammatory. Well, it's not very inflammatory, I guess, really. She's not sort of going from the river to the sea. She wasn't using that language. She was sort of just talking about... She was talking about what it meant to be living under an oppressive regime and those kinds of things. And as a result, she's been sacked from the Scream 7.
Right.
And I just found myself going, wow, that really struck me as a problem. But the narrative gravity effectively silences a young woman who wants to take an alternative position, and she has lost work as a result of it. And the question that you ask about the far right is, it feels like it's all part of this same thing where we're sort of being hoovered towards a gentle groupthink of where we're not interrogating things in quite the way that I would hope we would. Mm-hmm. I think also then there was a little bit of me that was worried about the polarization of media and how you have to take a side as opposed to being able to say, gosh, everything that's happened is awful. I feel really bad for everybody. Mm. I feel bad for all of the 4,000 plus children that have died without access to water or fuel or food as a result of the massive bombardment. So there's just, it's like, it feels like things are so kind of being stitched together on a global landscape, and then the sort of the shift towards the far right and the explicit anti-immigration narratives that are driving those things. And we've just had riots in Dublin, which look like they might have been informed by far right activists as well. Really?
There's been riots in Dublin. Okay.
So the early scuttlebutt is that the unrest that's been happening in Dublin as a result of a young boy being stabbed and people being injured has sort of been fomented by far right activists, and it's just, I just find myself being a bit like, oh, we're in that place again where it feels like. And then I'm sort of going wildly all over the place, but the new Secretary of State was heard, although he claimed he didn't say this.
This is in the UK.
This is in the UK, was heard saying that somebody from an MP from the north of England was talking about his constituents having to live in poverty, and why should that be the case? And he was heard saying on the microphone, because it's a shithole. Mm. And then he said, oh, I didn't say that. I said it's because you're a shit MP. It's like, oh, okay. Good fucking recovery, mate.
So
anyway, so there we go.
That's all. I mean, so when I say, why is this important to you? Which, of course, again, it's not to suggest that it shouldn't be. No, there's not at all in that question. So is this something that the feeling of, is it something about the feeling of, I guess, anxiety or fear, or like where does it come back to? Because you could, I mean, I don't think you are this kind of person. Perhaps I'm more this kind of person than you are, which is, that's all happening outside of my world. Of course, that's not the case, but
yeah, it's because everything feels febrile. Everything feels,
what was the word?
Febrile, like
febrile.
Feverish,
febrile,
sort of. Everything just feels that little bit more. Oh, now, and I think because I'm old enough to remember people being anxious about the Second World War,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, or the Cold
And
War.
now we
or
are-
the Cold War. I mean, even
Well,
I mean,
Oh, well, yeah, because we lived through that. But I
Yeah.
think there was still that sense when I was a kid of being surrounded by people who had lived experience of it, and the kind of the never again narrative.
yes.
And it just feels like, oh, now it's 100 years away. It's history, and I'm starting to feel like a relic, if that makes sense. It's like surely people can see that we as a world are sort of drifting back towards this horrifyingly polarized way of being, and it just makes me sad, because I also think we've made such incredible gains in how we interact with one another and freedoms and opportunities. That's all. It's because, yeah. I think we've accidentally come to a two-parter. So I'm really sorry. I know people don't really like the two-parter thing, but I'm also aware that there's the thing that you wanted to talk about, and I don't want us to lose that. So I'm just going to suggest that we crack on, because we've got way too much for one episode, and there's going to have to be a lot cut out. Whereas if we just have the thing that you wanted to talk about, we've got 2 eps. If that's okay, is that okay, Simon?